Welcome to the organizational meeting of the Board of Education. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first order of business tonight is the administering of the oaths of the newly elected board members, Benjamin Goes, Christine Hayes, and Sean McGuire. I'll ask them each to read the oath aloud and then please sign the document. And Seema Rivera. Oh, I'm sorry, not Benjamin, Seema. Benjamin did his on the last meeting. Sorry about that. So we'll start with Ms. Hayes.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of board member according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Mr. McGuire?
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of board member according to the best of my ability.
And Mrs. Rivera?
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of board member according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. And I'd like to remind each board member to please read and sign the school board ethics guidelines and then return them to me when you get a chance. The next order of business is the election of the president. May I have a nomination for the office of the president? Teresa?
I'd like to nominate Christine again, please.
Do I have a second? Barbara? Is there any other nominations? Okay. All in favor to elect Christine Hayes as the board president, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8 to nothing. So Christine, I'm going to ask you to also read the oath.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of President of the Board of Education according to the best of my ability.
I'll let Ms. Hayes take over.
Thank you, Mrs. Livingstone.
My bag down here. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. The next item of business on our agenda this evening is the election of the vice president. Is there a nomination? Barbara? Seema Rivera. Is there a second? Teresa? Is there any other nominations? Okay, all those in favor of the election of Seema Rivera to Vice President of the Board, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 8-0. Seema, there's an oath of office.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Vice President of the Board of Education according to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Seema. Okay, the next item on our agenda this evening for approval is the appointment of officers. This includes the district clerk, the district treasurer, deputy treasurer, tax collector, claims auditor, attendance officers, as well as a variety of oaths of office as related to these positions in the superintendent. May I have a motion to approve the appointment of these officers? Barbara, second. Gloria? Any questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 8-0. Now, item 5, we have a variety of other appointments. I won't read them all because the list is pretty lengthy, but I think you all have them in front of you on the agenda this evening. So may I have a motion to approve these other appointments? Tim, second. Ben, are there any questions on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now we move down to approval of a variety of authorizations, which you also have in front of you on the agenda, so I won't go through reading them all. May I have a motion to approve these authorizations? Teresa, second. Gloria, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we move down to official undertakings, bonding of personnel. And this relates to personnel handling district funds who will be bonded under a blanket policy unless otherwise noted. May I have a motion to approve these official undertakings? Seema, second. Ben, are there any questions or comments on this one? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0. Item 8 relates to the approval of a variety of designations, including the official newspapers, which will be the Altamont Enterprise, the Daily Gazette, and the Times and/or the Times Union, as well as bank depositories, and the designation of regular meetings, which is attached there, so everybody can take a look at that. May I have a motion to approve these designations? Barbara, second. Gloria, are there any questions or comments on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0. Okay, item 9. Other items. Again, this is all in front of you on the attached agenda. This includes a variety of policies that must be approved annually, as well as the attached list of policies governing the school board meetings, approval of rate of compensation to all non-represented district employees for internal district travel related to their responsibilities. May I have a motion to approve these other items? Ben, second. Barbara, are there any questions or comments on this one? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 8-0. And now, this item might take a little bit longer. The 10th item is the designation of board committees and school building liaisons. So, earlier in the year, everybody was sent a survey to fill out their preferences related to board committees and PTA service. And so we have them in front of you. And we'll start at the top on the committee side. The first item is the NISBA voting delegates. It looks like Judy put that down as a number one choice, and Barbara put it down as second. So do you want to allow Judy to do this and Barbara as the alternate?
Just have a question for Gloria, because Judy did it 2 years ago, I did it last year. You don't want to do it this coming year?
Well, I did, but I put it down, but I'm planning to go. I can do it, but
I'll just...
Judy likes to do it, so I usually
okay.
defer to her.
Okay.
So we'll put Judy down as the appointed rep and then the alternate. Gloria, or do you want to do that?
Sure.
Okay. We have the Capital District School Boards Association. Only one board member identified that as a preference, and that was Judy. Do you think that would be something she would be interested in doing as well, or?
I think she will.
Okay. All right, so we will put Judy down for this. Marie, do you think we need an alternate for this?
It wouldn't hurt to have an alternate, because they need some energy in that group.
They didn't have any.
They only met maybe
This year
3
once.
times, only once?
Yeah, I think
thought
only
they had-
once.
Once the whole year?
I believe so, because they had a couple cancellations. And Judy was the secretary, so.
Is anybody, Barbara, you would be interested in being an alternate? Thank you. Okay, Policy Committee, we had several people identify this as their number one choice. So if there's no objections, I think it would be nice to give everybody their top choice. But I think we can have 4 board members on here, so in addition to Barbara, Tim, and Seema, Ben, do you want to serve on the Policy Committee? I know you identified it as your second choice.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay. So for Policy Committee, that will consist of Barbara, Tim, Seema, and Ben. And now for Communications, we have Sean, Gloria, and Ben, who identified this as a top choice. Normally, we try to put board members on 2 committees. So if we want to start with Sean, Gloria, and Ben, Judy put it down as a second choice. And then Seema and Teresa put it down as a third choice. So if there's no objection, we can put Judy down on this. Okay. Okay, so for Communications, that will consist of Sean McGuire, Gloria Tolhilt, Ben Goes, and Judy Slack. Audit Committee might be a little bit tougher. Do we have 4 board members that are usually on this, or 3? Because we have community members. 3? Okay. Teresa, this is your number 1 choice, so we'll put you down on this. Tim, this is your second choice. Is this okay?
Yes.
And Sean, do you want to do this one?
for business practices, so I'd be happy to help out with audit.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sean. Okay, so Audit Committee, in addition to the community members, will also consist of Teresa Gito, Tim Horan, and Sean McGuire. And now for Business Practices. I think I was the only one that put it down as a top choice, so if there's no objection, I'll put myself on Business Practices. And then several people put it down as a second choice. Teresa, are you just on audit so far?
Yes.
Okay. Gloria? And Seema? Okay. And I think that works out correctly. Does anybody have any concerns about what we just did? Okay.
What for those again? I'm just double.
So for Business Practices, we have Christine, Teresa, Gloria, and Seema. And now for the CPSE and CSE liaison, we only have Barbara, who identified it as a third choice, and Ben as an alternate. And Barbara did this last year.
I don't mind doing it again, not unless Ben prefers doing it.
I'm willing to do it.
Okay, Ben, you want to do it? Okay, and then we have the NISBA Advocacy Liaison. Gloria, I think you're the only one that expressed an interest in this one. Do you want to continue on?
I'll continue to do it.
Thank you, Gloria.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Just one suggestion, Christine. One thing you might want to do is just ask one person from each of these committees to kind of be the temporary chair to call the first meeting
Okay,
until the chair is elected.
sure. For Policy Committee, Barb, do you want to handle that as the, okay. And Communications, Gloria, you want to do that one? Audit, Teresa, do you want to?
Sure. Thank you.
And then for Business Practices, do you want to do it too?
I can do it, but I mean, you can do it.
Or Seema, do you want to do it?
Sure, just the first one.
Thank you, Gloria.
Don't be absent, Gloria.
Oh, yes, I remember.
Okay. Does anybody want me to read through these again, or is everybody comfortable with what we just did? Maureen?
I got it.
Okay. Okay, so now we move to the School Liaison Survey form. And the first one here is Altamont Elementary. And it looks like Judy expressed interest in this as a second choice and Gloria as a third. And since there are several people who identified Linwood as their first choice, including Judy, it might make sense to put Judy in Altamont. And then we will need an alternate for Altamont. Is there anybody who's interested in being an alternate for this school Thursdays at 6 p.m.?
Could be an alternate for that one.
Okay, thank you, Gloria. Guilderland Elementary, we have several people who identified this as their top choice, Seema, Tim, and Gloria.
I don't have to have it, I just switched back. I was just trying to rotate, but you can take it, or
Okay.
Gloria can take it.
I was there the last time around. I just kind of wanted to keep the continuity, but I can move around.
Okay.
It's not a big deal.
I don't need,
I haven't been there in a while.
Okay, so do you want to put Gloria on that? And
Sure.
then, Tim, do you want to be the alternate for that one?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, Linwood, we have Barbara and Ben. Which one of you would like to do this, Barbara or Ben? Linwood. If we don't, Ben, you expressed
I
interest in
expressed this
Westmere.
interest because it said that sometimes their meetings at 8:30, and that would work better for my schedule.
Okay.
But
I think they try to alternate it, so if it's better for your
Yeah.
schedule, maybe best.
yeah, so I'll take that one.
You'll take Linwood? Okay. Ben. Barbara, do you want to be the alternate for Linwood?
Sure.
Okay, Pine Bush. Seema, you chose that as your second choice. Do you want to do that one?
I can do it. I teach, I think, Wednesday night in the spring, but I've been able to like coordinate with people, so they usually meet like once a month, right? So
I think
I'm
once a
okay
month.
doing it unless somebody else really wants it, but whoever the alternate is, I don't know if they can be available. Helps sometimes.
Yeah, I think, what did you do last time? 'Cause I was
I did Westmere last
Oh,
year.
Oh,
That was
West,
Thursdays.
yeah, 'cause I remember being able to do it for you then. So this is Wednesday?
This is Wednesdays.
So do you want to?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay. And then we'll just need an alternate for this one.
I think my Wednesdays in the spring are free,
Okay.
so I could alternate with you.
Okay, so
Great.
you want to be the alternate for that?
Sure.
Thank you, Sean. Westmere, Teresa, do you want to do this one?
I prefer to stay with Farnsworth. I could be an alternate, though,
Okay.
for Westmere, if that's possible. If not, then if somebody else wants to do Farnsworth badly, then they can take it.
Who's on Farnsworth? Tim identified Farnsworth as his second choice, and we already filled his first choice, so
I could do Farnsworth, but I don't know if you want Pine Bush.
I can't do Wednesday nights
Okay.
at
yeah,
all.
I think
That's fine.
if you don't mind Tim doing Farnsworth, because that was his second choice.
That's fine. I can do, so I'll do Westmere, and then, yeah, that's fine.
So we just need an alternate for Westmere then. I could do that. The alternate for Westmere. Okay, and Farnsworth we need an alternate for. And that's Mondays at 8 a.m. or 7 p.m. Anybody,
I can alternate there.
you'll be an alternate there? Okay, thank you, Sean.
That's okay, you don't have to be on as a principal liaison entity, but that's fine.
Okay. High school? Who does not have a school so far? Gloria and Barbara does not have a school.
I may do the PTA special ed if you want.
Okay. Is there somebody else that doesn't have a school?
Sean doesn't have a school.
Sean doesn't have a primary school, okay. Sean, could you do various days at 7 p.m.? It will be once a month, but we don't know what day of the week.
That's gonna be tough. I've sort of spoken for in 3 days already.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that is tough.
I could do it if you wanted to take me. Right now, I'm on Gilden Elementary. If Sean wanted you to do that one, Wednesdays at 7?
Yeah, the Wednesdays I'm teaching.
Oh, that's your teacher,
Yeah.
okay.
I could do so this is the high school, it's at various days at 7?
Yeah,
I could do that but I don't know, looks like, you can't do Pine Bush then, right? Like, I don't mind switching.
Is it 6:30? You can't do that one either, right? Or Wednesdays are no good. No, he can't.
Oh, okay.
I'm just trying to see who doesn't have a primary.
it's,
Well, I can do the high school for now. I mean, I could do them both for now. I could be a little more flexible.
okay, we'll put,
And then if something changes.
okay. And Barb, do you want to be a backup for the high school?
I could, or you could put me down for the high school to see how the rest of it goes. But I know I'm committed on Thursday nights and Tuesdays, obviously, so depending upon when they have the meetings.
Okay. Do we have any idea if those meetings are generally on the same day or typically on Tuesdays and not board meeting nights, or?
Oh,
Okay,
I can do that. I mean,
So
I
we should
have
be
one,
able to,
but I
like,
can be an
wait.
alternate if you want.
yeah.
Okay.
for the
I'll
Tuesdays,
put- I'll put Ben down as the alternate on this.
right. When does the special ed PTA meet? Is that,
Is that
Rotates
generally
too?
kind of the
It's
same?
been on Mondays,
okay,
but I don't know what they're doing for next year.
We're still working on the schedule
Okay.
because we have so many guest speakers that we want next year. We're trying to figure out how we can get them without interrupting any other PTA events, board events. So usually
okay.
Okay.
So who's the high school now, Mike?
So for high school, we have Gloria as the lead and Ben as the backup.
Okay.
But if it's Tuesday nights, I think if Ben can't go or you can't go, somebody should be able to go.
Yeah, because
Tuesday
it's
nights I'm free.
Tuesdays.
I'm
'Cause
fine.
we all have board meeting.
Right,
What
that's
if we
that's
don't?
one of my classes. so
Right,
those
right.
days
If we
is
don't,
fine.
then I can help too as a backup.
We should all just show up.
Okay, so I'll read through this one more time because that was a little bit slow moving. For Altamont Elementary, we have Judy as the lead and Gloria as the alternate. For Guilderland Elementary, we have Gloria as the lead and Tim as the alternate. For Linwood, we have Ben as the lead and Barbara as the alternate. For Pine Bush, we have Seema as the lead and Sean as the alternate. Westmere, Teresa is the lead and Christine is the alternate. Farnsworth, Tim is the lead and Sean is the alternate. The high school, we have Gloria as the lead, Ben as the alternate. The PTA council, we have me as the lead and Seema as the alternate. And then the PTA special education, we have Barbara as the lead, and we will just need an alternate for that, most likely Monday nights, but could be moved around.
Can be an alternate.
Okay, we'll put Teresa or... Okay. So now, I think we need a motion to approve the designation of the committees and the school building liaisons. Seema, second Tim. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes 8-0, thank you. And we will get this information out to Judy.
As soon as she gets back on the grid.
Okay, and now we move on to the regular part of our meeting. The first item on our agenda this evening is public comment number 1, in which we have one individual signed up this evening, and that is Kim Blasiak.
Hello, Kim Blasiak. I'm here as Pine Bush PTA Treasurer, and as a representative of our PTA, I want to formally invite all of you to our Pine Bush Elementary Run to Play, which is going to be on Thursday, August 16th. It is our 1 Mile for Kids and 5K run that we're doing to raise funds for our adaptive playground. So I'm going to give you the flyer. Also, because our board is watching this as we speak. Hi, Amy and Katie and Jessica. I am supposed to tell you all that Mr. Sunita will be the lead runner, and apparently we are Pine Bush Coyotes, which means I get to find a ragged dog costume and wear it that night. So it will be fun. We are working on childcare also. I've also been told, because they are not unleashing a tiger for people to run, that you can run and walk the 5K. But we hope that you all join us in support so we can raise funds for our adaptive playground. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Okay. Now, the next item on our agenda this evening is our program report, Facilities Committee. All right.
I'm going to kick it off, and we have a team model here tonight.
It always does.
One year I want to try. Seems like nice.
So let me start by saying good evening to everyone, and begin with just a huge thank you for everyone who was involved in this now months-long process that will kick off a years-long process. It's been a real pleasure to work with the committee who had the charge a few months ago to make some recommendations to the Board of Education about the scope and substance of our next capital improvement project. So I'm really pleased to begin to kick this off tonight. And I want to start, whoops, not that way. I just do. Okay, that's better. There we go. As always, I'd like to begin our discussion tonight with a reminder of our mission here in Guilderland, because the work that the committee did that you will hear about tonight is really grounded in our mission statement. And I'm not going to read it to you because I know you all know it well, but there's a couple ideas embedded in our mission statement that I think are really important when we think about the work that you're going to hear about soon. The first word I want to draw your attention to is the word that's all in caps, and that's the word all. We really have committed in this community to think about the needs of every single last one of our children. And our mission statement says that, and the work that we're trying to do in this capital improvement project really focuses on the extent to which we're thinking about each and every one of our students. The other two words I want to capture in our mission statement are the notion that our mission is aspirational. It's about what could be, where we want to go, our hopes for the future. And I think that is also true of the capital construction project that we're about to share with you. And then the last little bit of the mission statement really is the whole notion of being forward thinking. We really can't be thinking about the past. We can't even be thinking about the present. If we want to be the kind of school district that truly prepares students for the future, we need to be thinking about physical space, instructional space, that's thinking about the future as well. So that mission really is a touchstone for the work we're going to talk about tonight. So as I mentioned, we had a tremendous committee who spent several late afternoons, as I would put it, deeply into the weeds of the nooks and crannies of every inch of this building with the help of our architects and engineers who really know our facilities well, as we tried to parse through what is it that we want to include in this project. And they had the charge that we're delivering tonight to make a recommendation to our Board of Education. So I do want to thank them for their afternoons, some of them very lovely, some of them very long, where we really had to dig in and do some difficult work. But as you can see, we're looking at all 7 school buildings. We're thinking about instructional technology and always the health, safety, and security of our facilities. Here's the composition of the committee. I won't read every line. You can see it, but you can see it includes all of the stakeholders of our school community. We had students, teachers, support staff, administrators, principals, community members, and we sought out community members who really have a construction or a facilities background so they could come to the work with a sense of a perspective on where we were going. And everyone in the room was mindful of, again, the mission and why we're doing all this, but also, I'll be really upfront, everyone was mindful of our taxpayers as well, because that's what we're always balancing in these big projects, what we want to accomplish and then the resources available to us. So, as our work unfolded, we kept coming back in a very inductive kind of way to what turned out in our last meeting to be a really clear expectation and articulation of these 3 guiding principles. And tonight's presentation is really framed about these 3 guiding principles. And that is our desire and our mission and our responsibility to keep all of our students safe. And I'll talk more about what that entails, but that is a key piece. It's the top of our list tonight. We also want to think about how we keep all students and staff, frankly, healthy and comfortable. We don't learn if we are not comfortable. We can't learn at our best if we're not in a healthy environment. So that is also a big part of our work. And then, as I began, this is about the future. Again, it's not about creating spaces that were admirable in the 1950s, but what is an admirable learning space for the future, 2030, 2040, and beyond? So let me just hit a couple highlights about all of this. So when we think about safety, it's not just about entranceways and the trappings of obvious safety. There is a lot of infrastructure that goes into keeping our students safe. And a number of them here are enumerated for you. But it's all about having comprehensive systems that we can count on in a crisis so that we are safe from intruders, fire, natural gas, water leaks, electrical malfunctions, data breaches, and structural issues and decay. And as you all know, these kinds of things really do happen, and we feel compelled to be ready for them. So our emergency systems, consisting of things like door locks and fire alarms and lighting, public address, phone, internet, they have to be functional, reliable, and protected all the time, because we do count on them constantly. So there's the safe pillar of our work tonight. The next guiding principle has to do with the notion of being healthy and comfortable. And as you know, we do our best learning when we are not distracted by things that have nothing to do with the learning, and that includes the environment. So this portion of the project would look at things like heating, ventilation, cooling equipment, which would be particularly appreciated right now if you think about our weather, water, lighting, electrical, data capacity, ceilings, floors, doors, windows, furniture, storage, technology, communications infrastructure. All of these things are at the service of our mission, which is the teaching and learning that happens here day in and day out. We don't want our students distracted with inadequate or unreliable climate and room conditions. And you all know that we hear about these when they actually do occur in our existing facilities. So this is something that we truly want to address as we think about all students in all buildings. And then last but not least, we really need to think about contemporary learning spaces. These are essential as we think about today, but more importantly as we think about the future needs of all of our Guilderland learners. We have been talking about innovative approaches to teaching and learning for lots of time here in Guilderland. We'd like our spaces to reflect those kinds of teachings. So it's critically important that they are designed and or redesigned with future-ready, flexible, and adaptable infrastructure, communication, technology, furniture, equipment for our learners today and our teachers today, but more importantly as we think about the future. So those three pillars are really the foundation of all the work we're going to talk about today. Having our students safe, having our students healthy and comfortable, and having our students ready for the future that awaits them. So with that having been said, I'm going to hand it over to Neil, who will give you the big picture of the price tag.
Good evening. So the committee worked very hard, as Dr. Wiles described. We looked at a lot of the needs within the building, and we actually looked at those three guiding principles, and we came up with recommendations for each of those areas. And here's a summary slide showing you the cost breakdown of the project that's being recommended. So the safe component is about $21 million, about almost 50% of the overall cost. The healthy and comfortable aspect, about $9.5 million or 22%. And the future ready component is about $12 million, about 28%. So overall, we're looking at a recommendation for a project totaling $42,718,100. The big question, of course, is what will that cost taxpayers within the school district? So what we typically have used is the average home value for the town of Guilderland. That's $246,500. We've converted that into a full value assessment based on the equalization rate. So that would give us a full value home of $326,000. So with our cost of $42.7 million, working with our financial advisors, we have determined that that would be a tax impact of about 31.5 cents per thousand of assessed value, or about $103. This also includes, in the footnote, as you can see there, another $2.35 million that we have in our capital reserve account. We're counting on, and the board would have to approve this, but using that to help offset the cost. So that's already included, that assumption of the board approving $2.35 million in that capital reserve to help offset the debt that we would otherwise have to incur for a portion of the project. And just to talk a little bit about that debt picture, so we're going to be adding debt just like you would with a home mortgage. We also have debt from our existing capital projects. So on the chart that you have here, the bar graph, you can see the blue, that's our existing debt. The red represents what the new debt would be with the proposal that we're talking about. What we're showing you is what we call the net debt summary. So we have debt on one hand, our principal and interest payments, but we also receive state aid on this project. And state aid is about 65% of eligible expenses. So each of the graph bars that are shown there are net of state aid. So we'll have higher debt payments, but a portion of that is going to be offset by state aid. What we always try to look at when we have the opportunity with projects is to look at where we have declining debt coming off in the budget and those opportunities to layer in new debt without causing an imbalance in the budget in years going forward. So you can see we have some declining debt. We're going to be able to fold in some new debt on top of that and pretty much keep our debt picture level between state aid and our debt payments. So that's what we're trying to do with this project, and our process of doing smaller projects, shorter intervals, allows us to manage that process a lot better. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cliff Nooney, who's our Director of Facilities. He's going to walk through some of the specific aspects of the project.
Good evening. Happy summer. Would like to start by introducing a few people in the audience. We have Marty Griffin from Turner Construction, our construction management firm, Mike Andrews, Melissa Rankowitz from CSR, our architectural firm, and actually Kim sat on the committee as well. So everybody in the audience was involved. We talked about safety. We would like to just recap some of the things we did in our past capital project. And we did renovations at all our buildings, doing a secure vestibule. We did secondary egress, which was basically, I'll use Pine Bush as an example. If an office only had one door out, we added a second door, so if there was an intruder or an incident in the vestibule, our office staff has another way to get out of the office. We added interior and exterior security cameras. I believe if I have the number right, we have approximately 238 cameras across the school district currently. Card access added to frequently used doors, and we actually did impact-resistant film to the glass around each vestibule and adjacent office windows. I'm not going to play the video, but if you go watch the video, basically it shows somebody trying to break through that glass. It's a film that goes on our windows, and it's mechanically secured as well. It's about 5 minutes long. By the time he gets through the glass, he's out of breath and laying on the ground. I will read through the list. I'll hit highlights. I'm not going to read every number. I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end in detail as much as you want to get into. Fire and alarm and PA replacement, that's district-wide. Actually, the new systems are integrated together, and they actually it's a voice system, so instead of the annoying buzzers, it actually says fire. Part of this we can integrate with our security systems to where a principal would be able to do a lockdown over his phone. It'll announce that. Our goal is that integrate as many of our systems together as we can. Emergency lighting upgrades, telephone system replacement. This is actually going to a true IP-based system. Right now we have a hybrid, but what this system would do, and I joke with Marie, literally she would be able to make an announcement to the entire school district from her office if there was an issue, the way it ties together. Currently we don't have that ability. We would add additional security cameras, and then we have security camera replacements, and we also went back and looked at, as we went through the process, we devoted one of our facility committee meetings just to talk about safety and security. And one of the things that came up was adding additional security film to auxiliary entrances, and I'll use this building, the west gym entrance would be an example to put that film on those windows as well. And technology backup power, that's really specifically at the high school and Farnsworth. But as you see, and as we talk about technology, this is the hub for all of our stuff across the district. It's very important. All of our systems are going to be tied basically on the network, and it's going to be important to be able to back those up. Building exterior roof replacements, high school, I won't say it, high school, middle school, Pine Bush, Altamont Elementary, roof soffit replacement, that's specific to Farnsworth. We did some of that work on the last capital project. That's to continue around the building to get the soffit closed up. It literally keeps the birds and the bees out of the building. Building interior, floor tile replacement, gym floor and door replacement, bleacher replacement and rehab, that's in this building. It's bleachers in our east gymnasium and then doing actually an overhaul on our bleachers in the west gymnasium. Elevator replacement, that's the elevator in this building and one of the elevators at Farnsworth. The other elevator we're currently underway replacing now. Plumbing upgrades throughout the district, water and sewer piping replacement, nurses suite reconfiguration, that is actually at Linwood Elementary. That's currently, that's one of our smaller bathrooms. It's not ADA compliant. We would like to reconfigure that space, get the bathroom, make it a little larger. We have students with wheelchairs. We were able to get them in. Slab settlement correction, and we have actually a couple pictures. That's in this building here. There's an issue on the east side in the foreign language where we have settlement that I do not consider normal. We've had structural engineers in. The building's not going to fall down. It's not a safety issue, but just based on the age of the building, all buildings sink or settle in. This has just settled a little more than what I would consider normal, and we need to figure out why. And just show you a couple pictures. You can see the cracking along on the bottom. In the beginning, that's filled with grout, so those tiles touched. So we're seeing anywhere from 1/4 up to 3/4 of an inch, depending on where you're looking. And that's in the same area, but that's up on the top. And you can see it's actually where it cracks, pops tiles off the wall. Once again, we've had our architects, we've brought in structural engineers to make sure there wasn't a safety concern, but it is something we do need to address. There we go. Site pavement upgrades, sidewalk replacement, playground upgrade. That's actually money for playgrounds at Altamont, Linwood, Pine Bush. Tennis court replacement, that's the west courts. We did the east courts on the last project. You guys probably didn't catch it. We actually had to close one of the courts this spring due to cracking in the pavement. It's now repaired, but we may get a season, we may get 2 seasons out of it. We were just able to put that net up and open the 4th court within the past week for summer camps. Track resurfacing, former district office, demolition. That building really needs to go. That was one, I'll be honest, originally we thought we would be able to handle it in-house and with contractors. To be perfectly honest, SED got involved. They want a full submission, historical value, all kinds of good things. So it's better off that we handle it through the project to be able to do that. Stormwater drain replacement, that's actually in the backfield at Farnsworth, and it ties over on Presidential Way. That's an issue that's came up here very recently. And our irrigation system tank, which is housed in the maintenance building, but it serves all our athletic fields on this campus. This is just the East Drive coming in here. I mean, you can see it's part of living in the Northeast. We get frost, it heaves, it bucks the asphalt, and then kids yell at me because they hit potholes. Other categories, fuel island suppression system replacement. One of the things we talked about as we're converting our bus fleet to unleaded fuel, we currently only have 1 unleaded pump. We have 3 diesel pumps. So part of this would be is we'd probably go to 2 and 2. We'd have 2 diesel pumps, 2 unleaded pumps, and updating the system. Bus garage and ground lifts, those are the lifts that actually lift our buses up for our mechanics to work on. Same, there's a oil dirt water separator out in front of the building needs to be replaced, and there's a fire separation breach that's actually in the maintenance building, that will be masonry that needs to be replaced, or actually installed. Healthy and comfortable, HVAC replacement upgrades. There's work across the district. I would say the lion's share of that number is between the high school and the middle school. Water chiller, that is Farnsworth. It's one of my least favorite pieces of equipment. Boiler and hot water heater replacement. We actually still have an oil-fired hot water heater at Westmere Elementary. It is our last standing oil-fired device in the district. Ceiling tile replacement that really targets Gillen Elementary and Westmere Elementary. Window replacements, it's mixed across the district, but they're still original windows, 50s vintage windows. We can't get parts for them. Clock systems, that's our elementary buildings. Casework is our elementary buildings. Locker replacement, that's particularly Westmere Elementary. And wood floor refinishing, that's a couple of our smaller gyms around the district. Modernization, science and technology. Modernization of our labs, sorry. In particular, high school, middle school. We did have a separate subcommittee that worked with the facilities committee. Actually, Piscatelli headed up that subcommittee. So that's primarily in this building, 300, 400 wing area, and it's like 6 labs in Farnsworth Middle School. Locker room reconfiguration, that's strictly on the east side of this building. Part of what we looked at was taking that existing space, reconfiguring it to, it will allow us to buy space to put a weight room on that side of the building and open up space in our current fitness center, which is really a weight room for more like cardio type equipment. That is our oldest locker room space for anybody who's been in there. I mean, it really needs some work. Oh, this is one of our, which one is that, Mike? Chem? Yes. Chem lab. Here. And it just shows, I mean, that's same thing, original furniture. The layouts of these rooms really aren't future ready. And these are our production labs, tech labs down at Farnsworth Middle School. These are really good. We did some work in these on the last project, but now it's ceilings, lighting on this particular project. Technology and learning spaces, the top 2 infrastructure, that switch replacement and wireless access upgrades across the school district. And then the bottom 2 are really interactive projection displays and our furniture across the district. There's just shy of 400 classrooms in this school district. That does not cover all of our classrooms to be able to do furniture. The one nice thing about the bottom 2, as we work through this process, and it's approved by the board and by the community, this is very scalable, meaning depending on where prices come in, we can add classrooms. If prices weren't there, we could, if we had to, we could subtract classrooms. We could go back, look at different modifications of furniture. But I am going to let Dr. Singleton take you through the next few slides, I believe, to specifically talk about some of the furniture.
Thank you, Cliff. Hi, everyone. Good evening. As Mr. Nooney mentioned, we had a couple of subcommittees that ran as part of the facilities planning process. Mr. Piscatelli spearheaded the science lab subcommittee, and I had the pleasure of spearheading the technology and learning space subcommittee, which really had, I would say, two primary areas to look at. One of them being the instructional technology, not so much the infrastructure end of things, but how is the technology utilized within a classroom? How is it integrated well? But we took a bit of a different spin on the conversation. First off, I want to thank everyone who was on that subcommittee. We had a very eager and just very ambitious group of people who were very interested in the design element of classroom space and really thinking about how the entire learning ecosystem functions together. So that would be the space itself, the furniture, and the technology as well. So we looked at that as really a complete ecosystem and not just looking at it as technology alone or as a standalone resource within a classroom, but how do the instructional practices within the classroom utilize the technology, but also depend upon things like the furniture within the classroom. Dr. Wiles mentioned 2 key terms earlier in the presentation, and they were flexible and adaptive, and I would say you will see that throughout the recommendations from the multiple levels. They all came forward with the request to have more flexible and adaptive learning spaces and furniture in particular. So we had representatives from every level. Again, a great group of real pioneers in the instructional world, I would say, in our district, many of whom have taken it upon themselves to create flexible learning spaces already, but really knowing that we need to do it right, we need to do it with quality, we need to do it with thought and care in our planning process. So at the elementary level, the primary group was really seeking more interactive projection compared to a static projection model that we have currently in all of our classrooms. And it's basically what you see here, ceiling-mounted projectors, but there really is no capability to interact with what you see. So there was definitely an interest in having a more interactive technology environment where students, as you can see in a picture, can interact with the image that's on the screen or the display, and that was definitely at the top of their list. They wanted it to be adjustable, they wanted it to be flexible, so it could raise and lower depending on the age group of students. Also wanting to continue to have access to mobile devices with ample charging, and that's going to be a theme throughout as well. Intermediate at the upper elementary grades, really wanting to be able to be flexible with technology so there was not just one projection place or one central screen that they would view, but thinking about how do you utilize small group instruction, collaborative instruction, introducing potentially a smaller multiple display that can go to a group of students so they're not all having to convene directly around the central projection unit. Likewise, they wanted to continue to have access to the mobile devices and the charging as well. This is the middle level set of recommendations. So the middle level, same thing, flexible and adaptable. Most of our middle level classrooms, and I would say our high school level classrooms, if you've been in them, you would quickly recognize that they have the beige kind of stationary desks that have been there for a very long time. You're smiling, Ben, you know what I'm talking about. They're not exactly the most flexible and adaptable furniture arrangements. So as the instructional practices have continued to evolve, as the technologies have become far more mobile, the space needs to work within that. The space needs to be able to support that. So, we're very fortunate, I would say, in the marketplace right now. There are many more furniture options than what we've had in past years. Many of them are configurable, and they can be moved around for cooperative learning activities. They can be centralized for any teacher-directed learning, but flexible and adaptive is key. Mobile devices and charging, of course, at the middle level in the high school, we are going to the one-to-one program, so we will have ample devices available for students, but charging needs will be critical. We're prepared and ready to go with the charging needs, but within the classroom space, just as we have outlets within a space, we're recognizing that within classroom spaces we will also have to start introducing some charging capabilities there as well. Interactive projection, again, came forward from the middle level. The middle school does have some interactive panels already. They're called Promethean boards, which were installed actually back when I was in the middle school years and years and years ago, but they are still there and they're used pretty widely. But they're recognizing the need to expand that interactivity to multiple classrooms. And then again, space equipped for the mobile one-to-one, which is going to be accomplished through the Smart Pond. And then at the high school level, again, ample charging and the idea of multiple displays, again, so that you can support small group instruction came forward, and cooperative learning opportunities. Having some shared displays, and some of this we can accomplish with the one-to-one because we can cast from student devices to the displays. So in other words, I would be able, if I had my Chromebook here, I'd be able to put what I see on my screen on the main screen within a classroom. But the projection has to be capable of receiving that. That's the key. Space, again, equipped for the one-to-one learning, and then, again, the screen casting and mirroring for teachers and students. So I would say from a technology view, the main need is really to rethink the projection within classrooms. It's not so much more computers, but it's really about how do you have those critical peripherals, I would say, of projection connecting to those devices. And projection within a classroom now is pretty much an absolute necessity. I don't think there's really a classroom space in our district that is not dependent on ample projection within a classroom. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up here, and then we'll open it up for questions. So just to take a look at the timeline, the proposed project timeline. Of course, tonight, July 5th, we are putting forward the Facilities Committee recommendations. Between now and the next board meeting, we will ask the Board of Education to review and discuss the proposals that have been put forth. And on August 14th, we're hoping that the board will adopt the bond resolution. In October 16th, ideally, we would like to go out with the capital project vote. And then between November and June, we'll be working with the architects to go through the project design development. And then July through January of 2020, we are hoping that the State Education Department will be very efficient in their review and approval of this project. And February through March of 2020, the bidding and the award of the contracts. And then from April to August of 2020, we will start with Phase 1 construction. And then later in September to August of 2021, construction Phase 2. So that is the timeline that we have set forth. But at this time, I think we are open to questions.
Seema?
Oh, I had a question about the heating and cooling, like the HVAC. So would that mean that there's I know there's some classrooms now that have air conditioning. So I don't know, what would this cover, I guess?
From larger systems, Seema, I would target second floor middle school.
Okay.
On the last project, we did Seneca House. And just looking at data, I mean, it would be great if we could provide air conditioning everywhere, and maybe someday we'll probably be there. But it is very expensive to do so. So when we're looking at HVAC, we're looking at equipment 95, 97 vintage unit ventilators in classrooms that we're going to be replacing. But specifically when we're looking at the cooling aspect of it, I would target the rest of, if we could potentially do second floor Farnsworth.
Seema?
Go ahead. I just had a question also about the playground. The playgrounds at all the schools, like I heard that, I don't know if it's just Pine Bush or if all of them, are they not handicap accessible, like currently?
The only playground that I would say is fully handicap accessible is Gillen Elementary.
Okay.
And that was partially done through a grant, actually, when I first started here. So that goes back over a decade, to where we actually have pathways to equipment. As we move forward with playgrounds, and as we talk about like our starting an adaptive playground at Pine Bush and the playgrounds work we do in the future, that would be included as part of that. So it would be a mixed, I would see like the new playground, well, any of them, Altamont, it would be a mixed use. It would be regular play equipment and adaptive play equipment on the same playground. Very similar to Gilliland. Basically, Gilliland has a rubber road through it. It's a pathway, so it's wheelchair accessible, and you can go up to the swing set, and it has different types of equipment to where you can manipulate it with your hands or make sounds and stuff like that.
And so you said that building in front of Farnsworth, that's going to be demolished, that old district office building?
Yes. What that will be is what I proposed. Since the infrastructure is there, is we would still keep power and water hookups, because we would use that as our staging area for this capital project and future capital projects. That's actually a cost to any project if we have to set up trailers and power hookups and phone hookups and cable hookups and sewer hookups. If we did that here, we'd have to do a lot of work to tie that into this existing building. When we did the last project, we just busted holes through the walls of the current DO, so we're able to tie into those systems. But that actually probably, I would put it on average $20,000 to $25,000 per project just to set up a staging area. So although we'll not demolish the building, the proposal is to have just a small utility shed there just to house those.
That's just like during the project, or is it like beyond?
That would be for future
beyond.
as well.
Oh, okay.
So future projects,
Oh, okay.
if I'm here or not, it will save the taxpayers money to keep that as a centralized staging area. And then it's kind of in the middle. It works, and it is a cost savings down the road.
And somebody said state aid covers, is it up to 65%, or this is like of the total project? Or these was just like the safe parts, and I guess I missed, or maybe I just need clarification on. what that?
No, that would be state aid on the entire project. There is eligibility requirements, so the vast majority of the project is eligible for state aid. It would have to take an hour or two to tell you all the exceptions that you might have for what's eligible and what's not. But most of the work that we're proposing here would be eligible for state aid. Some of the equipment may not, for example, under the rules. But what we're assuming at this point is we're going to have over 90% of the project eligible for state aid, and also the aid ratio is 64.8%. So it's just shy of 65% state aid that we would receive back on eligible expenses. And that's for the entire project, not just safety.
This is my last question. So so obviously there's like a big timeline and a process for the whole thing. So what's the, and I don't remember in the past, so what's the approach to like get this out to the community so when it goes up to vote, like what's the plan that's put out there so they understand what's happening and why why you're asking for this much?
That's a great question, and we're on a very short timeline. So honestly, we're viewing tonight as the first step in helping our community understand the need for this work and the value of the work. But we would do a number of things, probably things like on opening day, when we have our entire faculty, to spend a good portion of that time with everyone, talking about overall what the project would look like so that our faculty and staff become ambassadors for the program. We talked about the idea of doing a follow-up program in each of the buildings so that, honestly, people are most interested in what's going to be different in their building. So maybe do a more detailed presentation about the buildings. We've already been reaching out to community groups to share this information. For example, I'm on the September agenda for the McCownville Neighborhood Association with a please hold this. We've talked with our communications specialist office already about perhaps putting together a video that could be shown on Channel 16, which isn't Channel 16 anymore, but within our own network that we could post through social media, Facebook, Twitter, our website. And then, obviously we'll do the traditional newsletter. So we'll do a lot of those things, but really tonight is the kickoff to try to generate some excitement about what could be with this project.
For the budget, how when we go to all the PTAs as liaisons and we have that roadmap of, I guess, the budget process, can we do something similar for this? So, because I feel like that's when they start asking questions and we go to PTA and talk to people.
Absolutely. That would be a very important thing to do, and it would be in essentially September with a projected October 16th vote. We really have, depending on what the board does at the August meeting, we essentially have 2 months to really blanket our community with information about the project. So those PTA meetings will be essential.
Marie, just for clarification, can you elaborate again at this public meeting as to why it's important that we have this vote in October as opposed to in May when we normally would have votes?
It has to do with the timing of when we can go out to bid and when we can actually do the work. Because obviously we have students here from September until June, the bulk of this work has to happen in July and August. So we have to plan backwards to the point at which we can go out for bid, and then we have to plan backwards from there on that lengthy state ed review process. So if we were to wait until the May vote, so May 2019 to vote, then we wouldn't begin this project until 2021. So we're really pushing things out. So that's a really important question. And I know one of the other things I'll mention is because the last project that we did, we also had a fall vote. And there were questions about whether or not we should contemplate having our vote on the same day as the general election, because people are already out voting. We did do that homework. Actually, Neil reached out to Albany County Board of Elections to say, would it be possible for us to host the vote for our project at the same time? And they told us no, it would not be allowed because of voting machines and there would also be voter confusion because our voting places are not the same as general election voting places. So many of our community members would need to go to place A for the general election, then get in their car and go to place B for the school district election. So there's lots of reasons, and I think Albany County shared them with us in writing, why that's just not possible.
Teresa.
I'd like to piggyback on a couple things that Seema mentioned and then on as well. Regarding the playground equipment, is it, well, I don't know if it's more geared towards you, Marie.
Okay.
Just because of the fact that currently students that are in need of handicapped accessibility on a playground on an elementary level, are they placed at a school like Guilderland that would have that equipment? Or if they're at another school completely, they don't get to go on the playground?
Well, we place students where the programming is.
Yeah, I figured.
So right now, the greatest number of students that we have who are in wheelchairs, who have physical limitations, are at Pine Bush. We have some of our own students, actually one of our own students, but then we have many, many students who are here, some of them our own, who are in BOCES programs. So that would be the greatest number of students. But every building has students with some kinds of physical limitation. So that's one of the reasons why we made the word all such a big deal, that we really want to work toward that time when all kids can engage with all other kids and play. So I'm not quite sure if I answered your question.
It was just a concern of mine that I didn't know it was an issue. If we have Guilderland Elementary that does have handicapped accessibility, it just concerned me that we would have children at other schools that wouldn't be able to partake in playground activity.
Mr. Nooney here is chomping at the bit, so I got to let him jump in.
Well, no, I mean, we have, and it's not full accessibility, Teresa, but we have, if we can get an adaptive swing in, depending on what the student's disabilities are, we've installed adaptive swings at our other playgrounds. We've made modifications. Pine Bush is an example. The student can use it, but we were able to modify a piece of equipment in-house to allow the student to be on it with his aid. So, I mean, if we can, we do.
Okay.
Guilderland, hands down, is the most accessible playground in the school district.
Okay.
For our disabled population.
A couple other questions for you, Cliff, sorry. Regarding the DO office demo.
Yes.
I've always just voiced my opinion about FMS parking lot and loving it dearly.
I'm ready.
Is there any way that that demo could cause better flow of traffic at FMS?
We looked at two options at FMS. We did bring it up, actually brought it up at our facilities committee meeting at FMS because we were in the library classrooms. We had a very nice view. One was a total reconfiguration of the lot, bringing a road out like above the football field and another entrance out on 155. It actually moved the parking lot and the athletic field. The price tag on that one came in over $3 million.
Is that all?
We did look at option 2, which was potentially to bring an exit road down past in front of the organic garden and out on 155. You're almost down to where the golf course office is. That price tag also came in just slightly over $1 million. We spent time talking about it as the group. The group did not feel, based on where we were, what we picked to bring forward to the board, that was the best way for the community to spend their money at this time. Because we also brought up, there's traffic issues here in the morning. I'll be honest, from my perspective, and there's not Guilderland Elementary, there's traffic issues, and that one's probably causes the biggest safety concern because we're tying up on Route 20, which is just a zoo in itself at that time of day. So we did look at it, Teresa. We brought them both forward, and that's also that's a state road, so we're not even sure. There's a whole other process there if we were going to tie in out to where they would even allow us to do it. But one of the cost reasons, you probably don't look at it, there's a huge drop from 155 down on the Farnsworth. So to be able to build that all up to make a road is costly.
Just trying.
Oh, no, trust me, other people tried to.
I'm in awe of the fact that there hasn't been an accident in that parking lot.
And we did our,
In awe.
we did our homework. One of the things we did on the last project, and it was when we put that curbing in, and I don't know if I said it to this group, I said it to the facilities group, that wasn't to make it convenient for people, that was to keep separation between our students and people flying through up in the upper part of the lot, even passing buses or whatever. That's the reason we did that. The sharp curves are there for a reason, to try and slow people down. But when we put that curbing in, it was to provide separation of our students and staff who are getting up by the front of the building from people coming in, not really paying attention to what they were doing. That's why we installed that curbing at that time. But, we did look at it, and we had quite a few conversations around it. But it really came down to when we cut, we're pulling things back or splitting scope, for example, a paving scope that the group wasn't comfortable, didn't want to bring it
There's only
forward.
so much money to go around. I can appreciate that. Another question I had was, which gym floors are you guys looking to upgrade?
Farnsworth gets a replacement, the big gym. That one has lots of dead spots in it. We actually got a nice demonstration from Principal Laster of how a basketball doesn't bounce in some spots. And then actually the east gym here gets refinished.
Experiment.
But that would be a total maple wood floor replacement at Farnsworth in the larger gym.
Okay. And at the same school at FMS, are you referring to the second elevator? Since I'm guessing
Yes.
we're working on the first one and now the
The
second
elevator
one.
that's currently down will hopefully be in operation this fall.
Okay.
Honestly, that just came out of SED late April, early May. and
So
it
these
was-
monies are referring to the second elevator at FMS as well?
Yep, rehab, the second elevator and the elevator in this building.
And then the other one was regarding the clock system and casework replacement. What is that in regards to?
Clocks would be the elementary clock system, the master clock systems. We did the clock systems in the two big buildings on the last project.
Where they all went digital and they're all in the same?
Digital at Farnsworth, these are still analog but wireless.
Okay.
So they sync. So that would be the rest of the elementary buildings. And then casework, if you look at an elementary classroom and picture where the sink is and the storage, that's what we're referring to as the casework area, is that a lot of these cabinets some of them are 50s vintage, 60s vintage. It's to redo that casework, maximize that storage
Okay.
for our staff as best we could.
And the other one was wood floor refinishing. Where is that happening?
Couple, I think Westmere was one of them, and Altamont was the other one, upper.
Oh, gym wood floorings, okay. And then I just had a couple other questions that I don't know if I think it would be Damien or, Damien, regarding the network infrastructure. Was that taken care of in the one-to-one funding? Or is this additional projects?
The stuff that's in this project, no, it's not part of the
Totally
one-to-one.
separate,
It's totally separate. Keep in mind that the timeline for the capital project is several years out,
right?
too. So there was another, I wouldn't call it a subcommittee, but a small group. Our coordinator for network and infrastructure, Pierre Val, met with a consultant from CSR, as well as a vendor that we utilize called Anise, and they reviewed where we are currently with our infrastructure and tried to anticipate needs at that point in time. So we're looking at several years out. So what they're looking at is we have in the high school, actually, if you look on the ceiling in here, you'll see new access points are starting to appear throughout the high school. This room was already done fairly recently. Those are part of the Smart Schools project that are happening now, but that's not every building. So by the time we get to that point in time, we are anticipating we're going to be needing to replace and upgrade switches, as well as access points throughout other buildings.
Okay. One last question, this one's for Neil, just regarding the serial bonds, the blue debt and those bar graphs. Why would that fluctuate up and down and not just be a declining? Because it's old debt is the blue debt, right? The current debt we have and...
Actually, we work with the financial advisors, and what they try to do is match up where how to keep that level over time mixed in with other debt that we have. So we have multiple projects going on, debt carrying out. So trying to look at how that works. We also were able to do in the low interest rate environment over the last several years, we're also able to refinance some of our bonds and pay less interest. So that what looked like a more level schedule then became a little less so as we took particular bond issues that were nearing the end, maybe had 5, 6, 8 years left, refinanced them, lowered our debt, but still kept the aid a little bit higher. The aid calculation is separate from the debt calculation. So we started with one debt calculation, lowered it, but kept the aid in the same spot.
Thank you. I'm sorry to take up everyone's time, but that was it.
Okay.
No, good questions. Are there other questions? Ben?
Damian, in the printout that we have, it doesn't talk about all the furniture and stuff. Is that under the technology improvements listing?
I don't have it in front of me.
At the bottom of the of each sheet, we have $500,000 to $1.25 million in technology improvements that are just unspecified. I was going to ask why they're unspecified, but I was thinking maybe it's what you're talking about.
Okay. Are you looking at the spreadsheet, Ben? Which document?
The thing Neil sent out last week.
Which building?
It's in all of them.
That's
the furniture and stuff.
Those technology numbers, that is what adds up.
That's the sum total.
Sum total for that.
Well, that. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, Seema?
This is a question about a question. So we can ask more questions in September's board meeting?
August.
August, sorry.
August.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I forgot we meet in August, too. Okay.
I just have one question about the locker rooms at the high school. Cliff, I know you said changes that would leave room for a weight room. Is the new weight room not included in this project?
It is not. Same thing. We did look at that, and we did put a cost to it, and saying that came in at just shy of $1.3 million to add an addition onto our current weight room space. And then based on, we've exceeded our square footage in this building for our acreage, so we'd have to actually put a fire separation. So basically we'd be building a room. You'd have our current room, windows, and then the room on the other side of it. You would actually have to come outside into a vestibule to come back into the weight room. So what we tried to do, instead of spending that money on putting an addition on the building, was look at our current space on the east side. We were reconfiguring that with one of the team rooms that we could make more adaptive for weight, to buy space in the current fitness center to make it more like a mixed use. So like almost like you see if you went to Venn or something, so you have cardio, some weight, some in that space that would tie into PE.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Oh.
Are there any other questions? Okay. I'm sure there will be between now and the August meeting, or at the August meeting. Thank you very much, Neil.
I'd just like to make one further point about the schedule. We also have a general election coming up this fall, which limits our ability to get access to voting machines, and they need time after the vote with those machines, so we're trying to get ahead of that. So really our timeline about August and having the board vote on this in August is absolute, because we also have legal notice requirements that take place going forward. So we have to have enough time between August and when we hold the vote to have those legal notices published and get the approvals that we need. So I didn't want you to think this is your best opportunity to ask questions and get answers tonight. We'll do the same thing in August, but we really can't delay beyond August and still meet our timeline of trying to get this project voted on October 16th.
Okay. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Oh, first class.
The presentation.
Hard work. Okay. The next item on our agenda is approval of the consent items, which consist of the meeting minutes from the June 12th, 2018 meeting, the CPSE and CSE recommendations, personnel action items, curriculum and instruction, I believe there's 2 textbooks on there, and financials. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Barbara, second. Seema, are there any questions, comments? Yes, Ben?
We separate out item D.
Item D, yep,
The
there's 2 textbooks on here.
On
History of Europe, and then the memory of things used for grade 9 English. You want to take off the A History of Europe in the Modern World? Okay, so we will remove that one textbook and vote on that separately. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. And now may I have a motion to approve the textbook entitled A History of Europe in the Modern World? This would be for use in grade 10 for AP European History. May I have a motion to approve this textbook? Gloria. Second, Seema. Any questions or comments? Ben.
So I didn't want to provoke any spontaneous discussion on the issue of AP, and I didn't want to suggest that the reviewers hadn't picked the best textbook to prepare students for the AP exam, but I think that there must be a reason why these books go through the board, and I cannot in good conscience support this book at the high school. There are some features which I like about this book, but I think that the overwhelming message that it conveys is about content memorization, content which is wide-ranging but kind of shallow, and because I don't think it's conducive to authentic learning, I'm going to vote no on this item.
Thank you, Ben. Are there any other questions or comments on this one? Okay.
Can I ask Ben to explain what you mean by, I forget the phrase that you used, but
Shallow?
Learning. Like, what do you refer, what do you, I'm being ignorant because I did not read I didn't go through the textbook, so I don't know what you're referring to.
So it covers the history of Europe from Charlemagne to modern times, and that's a lot of history to cover. And if you go through it, it's really, the chapter I spent the most time was the Enlightenment and the Scientific Revolution, because those are the areas I know the most about. And it gives you names quickly, and then it tells you the essentials of what they did, but there's no in-depth discussion. It tells you that there is a debate between, say, Bacon and Descartes, but it doesn't really go into that debate all that much. Of course, in a class like this, you don't have time to go very in-depth, and that's why I said that I don't think that the textbook is bad for the class. I just think that in terms of what we're trying to teach students, it teaches them that I feel like it gives the impression that history looks like this, when of course history doesn't look like that. So I just think that it's designed to let people memorize quick names and dates and facts that might show up on a test, and not so much engage their understanding of the actual issues that they're reading about.
And at an AP level, it really should, because it's really supposed to be a college level, more discussion regarding these kinds of topics.
I feel that our highest level classes, which AP are, should have more of that discussion, critical thinking, questioning aspects, yes. Although I think that the AP program itself is more designed for that test at the end of the year, which gets kids college credit, which is why this textbook lends itself so much to just quick facts that might be tested. Right.
Yes, Sean.
Gloria. I guess my question is that the book, I really see the teacher as being the one that adds value to the course and the content and take the discussion further. And a lot of times, books are a good start, but not the be-all and end-all. Otherwise, why would we have a teacher lead the students through the instruction? And so I guess I'm not quite making the connection as to why the concern about the book stopping short, when that's not really the goal of the book, is not to teach inclusively the entire course, right?
Ben, do you want to, or Gloria, do you want to?
Well, I guess I could piggyback up on what John said. Having been a history teacher for 37 years, the value of the book is almost like kind of the framework of a house. It provides the boundaries within which the course is being offered. And we all know that history just keeps adding on and adding on. Every year there's more to cover. And in fact, there was a recent article in On Board about the whole discussion about the tremendous content that this course has. So they're even wrestling with that. So what the teacher, and I know when I use the textbook, again, it provides a framework within which you work, but then all the details that you put on and the understandings and the challenging and the questioning comes from adding primary sources, documents, documentary videos, whatever you bring, argumentation, debate in the classroom. But the framework is there that all are working within so that it's easy to identify where you're at. And it is a tremendous amount of information, but it's also a great resource for kids quickly to find what they need to help them stay within that framework. But I would agree totally with what Sean said. It's not the teacher. The book is not the teacher. It's a tool. It's one of many tools that teachers use, and it has a value. It's a limited value, but it is a value.
Any more discussion on this? Yeah, Barb?
Sort of repeating the same thing, but I saw it more as an outline for the teacher. And then individual students, may do projects on certain areas or certain things, and not at the be-all and end-all of the entire course. At least I would hope not.
Yep. Thank you for that. Okay. Yep, Ben.
I will say that this book, the curriculum guide that comes with it, does have a lot of activities that students can pursue in addition to reading the textbook. So, for your information.
So, all those in favor of the textbook?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-1. Thank you. And now we move down to information items, curriculum and instruction. Damien?
So not to beat a dead horse, but I have another book for your review here. The title of the book is Once We Were Brothers, and just get the screen put up here. So it is submitted for your information this time. Once We Were Brothers by Ronald H. Balsam for use in 12th grade Holocaust and literature. It's recommended again for you and your approval at the next meeting. And I've shared with you the Farnsworth Middle School Learning Center annual report that was presented and pulled together by our library media specialists. They are Maura Nichols and Lisa Lehman. So it highlights for you some critical data around the usage of our library space at Farnsworth Middle School and some of the great activities that they are facilitating there with students as well. So it's there for your reading pleasure. And again, I thank Maura and Lisa for their great work.
Damien, that was really well done.
Yeah, they do a great job.
Yeah, and reading about how the students have formed that help desk and all the work that they're doing.
Yes.
It was
Yeah,
kudos
they do a great job. They do a really nice job. And then my final item is just a little bit of good news. We had a student winner. Congratulations to 9th grader Anish Mupidi, who won the highest honors in the junior division for biological sciences at the 2018 Science Teachers Association of New York State Science Congress. So congratulations to Anish.
Thank you, Damien. Are there any questions for Damien?
Is that learning report, is that up on the district website to be accessed by the public? Because it is terrific.
I don't know, but I actually have a meeting with Aubrey on Monday, so it could be. I mean, keep in mind, we're in the transition to the new website format, so there are some things that we're still trying to get up there. But I'll
great
check
if the
with
public could see it too, because it is very well done.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Now we move to school business information. Neil?
Yes, thank you. First item this evening is a summary of the donations that we received in the 2017-18 school year in accordance with Board Policy 1800. So this is the annual report. I would like to share with you that we do receive a large number of musical equipment donations, which are greatly appreciated. But just to give you a variety of some of the other things that we received, we did receive some woodworking equipment and tools. We also received, for needy students at the beginning of school year, backpacks and school supplies. A chest freezer was donated to us during the course of the year. Let's see what else we have. And 2 sit-to-stand desk risers that are becoming very popular now. We also received as a donation. So again, we'll take any and all donations that come forward. People are very generous, and we're very appreciative of what it adds to our school district.
Neil, it seems like we were very fortunate last year with all of these donations. Is this a common occurrence that we would receive so many in one year, or do you think we got more last year than what we normally would?
I would say we have more variety, I think, this year, but by and large, our community and the greater community is very good about helping out the school district during the course of the year. So we've got a couple of organizations that are very good at the start of the year and making sure that we have backpacks and school supplies for kids in need. That's become a reoccurring event, and that's been added to from various organizations over time as well. So I think we're very fortunate in this district to have the support that we have for our students.
Thank you.
Next item is the annual cellular telephone report. We do have district employees that do have cell phones throughout the district. Out of over 900 employees, however, only 36 get district-issued cell phones, and it's really a function of the job duties that they perform. Some of them are administrative, but our transportation department, obviously, but also our custodian maintenance staff who's out on our buildings and grounds doing work and need to communicate. What we try to do is put together a group plan. We're on the state contract for that. So we're bundling everybody together. We can actually bundle all of our cell phone minutes together. We've also made sure that we have two-way communication available, particularly for our custodians and maintenance staff who need to communicate during the day. So that's a direct two-way radio feature. We average about $23.94 average cost per month per phone. So again, we don't widely distribute the cell phones, but they are needed for emergency communications and for day-to-day operations. And we do have users that are eligible to have district-issued cell phones as a result.
Thank you, Neil. Are there any questions or comments for Neil? Okay, now we move to superintendent information. Marie?
Thanks, Christine. Next week, first and foremost, is the American Association of School Administrators Conference in Washington, D.C. This is the advocacy conference and governing board meeting. So this is my third year of my second term to this elected office. There are 6 superintendents who represent New York State and the governance body of AASA, so it's my last year. I can't serve any longer. So our contingency will be going down of 6 superintendents and joining with about 300 other superintendents from across the country to get a day-long briefing on some of the educational issues that are stirring at the federal level. And then on Wednesday, we go up the hill and we knock on doors and we talk with our elected officials. We have meetings with Chuck Schumer's office, Kirsten Gillibrand's office, Paul Tonko's office. Those are the ones I'm directly involved in. And then others I'll pop in with my colleagues who have congressmen from other regions of the state. So it is a very powerful and effective tool. For whatever reason, this week in July seems to be one when the elected officials are kind of tuned into educational issues. We've had great success in past years in helping shape federal policy. We don't get it perfect for sure, but we need to weigh in. It's very important to do that. So that will be next week. So I'll report back when I return. Next, I just have a brief update on our summer programs. I know everyone thinks it's summer vacation, but our buildings are amazingly busy. So once again, we are participating in the Capital Region BOCES Summer School Program. This is held at Mahonison High School. And this serves students who need to either retake a course or prep for a retake of a Regents exam. Registration for that program took place on June 26th, and classes begin on July 9th, which is Monday, and end August 16th. So if there are folks out there who are more interested, the information is on our homepage. We also are hosting the entire BOCES Summer School Program for students with disabilities at Westmere Elementary School. That has been our plan of late, to just give them over our building, and they're very appreciative of that. It's a great location for them to run their programs. And then Guilderland Elementary School is also quite full. We are running 2 programs. One is our own extended school year program for students with disabilities. We have both a half-day and a full-day program for students. And then Marcia Ranieri and her team run a 3-week summer school program for our ENL students. And we provide busing to all of those students. I want to say thanks to Cliff, who is already headed out, for his Herculean efforts to help us make sure we have enough air conditioners in all of those buildings and classrooms, because the heat has been, as you know, oppressive. And it's more than just being uncomfortable. Many of our students have in their IEPs certain limitations of the temperature of the room. So we have been able to keep up with all of that, and that all goes to Cliff and his team. But busy times, and we're happy to have students around and about, and it's so far so good. And then last but not least, just want to recognize everyone who was connected with our graduation ceremony from June 23rd, 2018. I want to recognize Mr. Lutzik, who is now happily enjoying retirement, but also Mr. Piscatelli, who played a role, but in the entire leadership team, the class advisors, Mrs. Bedian, Mr. Corona, the technical crew at SEFCU, and Andy and his team, our orchestra, the speakers, and the graduates themselves. And the audience was phenomenal. I've heard very positive things from students, from parents, and from faculty and staff about it just being a very memorable and dignified event, which is exactly what it should be. So I'm really proud of everyone who played a part in it. I noticed in my in-basket today is the Enterprise Graduation Edition. It's well worth taking a look at. So thanks to everyone who had a part, and we'll look forward to next year. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Marie? Now we move to board president information items. There are 2 this evening. The first relates to a variety of policies that are presented for a first read. Barbara, would you like to elaborate on any of these policies here?
I don't think so. They're, except for the use of the credit card, they're just sort of looking at them again, keeping them up to date.
Okay. Okay, the next item relates to the New York State School Boards Association, a variety of dates, key dates that are coming up. Information was recently emailed by NYSSBA to each board member regarding submitting resolutions and proposed bylaw amendments for consideration by the voting delegates at the annual business meeting in the fall. The annual process sets NYSSBA's advocacy efforts through the proposal of new positions and the continuation or discontinuation of those set to expire. Only boards of education that are members of NYSSBA or NYSSBA's board of directors may submit resolutions for consideration. Proposed resolutions, once adopted, may direct NYSSBA to advocate either for or against a wide variety of legislative and regulatory issues at both the state and federal levels. So we have some key dates here. July 16th is the deadline for submitting proposed resolutions or bylaw amendments. August 24th will be the distribution of the proposed bylaw amendments and resolution book. September 21st is the deadline for submitting amendments and rebuttals. September 28th is the distribution of the voting delegates guide, proposed bylaw amendments and resolutions, and October 27th is the annual business meeting in New York City. So are there any questions or comments about this? I know last year we submitted a resolution, and that we had a good experience with that, so keep your eyes peeled in the coming months. Okay, next we move to action items, school business management. Neil?
Okay, first item this evening is a recommendation for approval of a number of agreements for the provision of programs and services for our students with disabilities, both in the summer and during the school year coming up. I'll just read the list of agreements that are being proposed for approval. One is with CDB Connections, one's with Charlton School, next is with Empire Neurological Services, then Northeast Associates in Rehabilitation, Spotted Zebra Learning Center, Vanderheiden, Visual Eyes. Visual Eyes is the last one. They have 2 agreements, one for the school year and one for the summer.
May I have a motion to approve all of these service agreements together? Seema, second. Are there any questions or comments about the agreements? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 8-0.
Next is a recommendation to approve a legal services agreement with Gervin and Filazzo to provide special education legal services, and that will be for the coming school year.
May I have a motion to approve the legal services agreement? Tim, second. Gloria, are there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 8-0.
Next is a recommendation to approve the letter of continuing agreement with the town of Guilderland. And this is for school district resource officer. The fee arrangement is the same as it has been in the past, so the annual increases are based on the agreement with the town police officer association, whatever the increase is there, or 3%, whichever is less, and that's what we would pay in subsequent years.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the letter of continuing agreement with the town? Barbara, second. Gloria, are there any questions or comments on this one?
I just have a
Teresa?
question. This resource officer is only for the high school, correct?
I believe so.
That's correct.
He's housed at the high school.
Housed at the high school.
But he does serve the entire district. We do dispatch him from time to time to other buildings.
What kind of reason would cause him to go from the high school to, say, the middle school?
We've had times when there may have been a difficult custody issue between parents at pickup time, and a parent who shouldn't be on campus might have been, so we might have Nick go just to help the building principal. That comes to mind. Bears. It depends. If we feel like the building needs some additional support, we often will call the police office, and they'll send other officers as well.
That's what I mean. Like, why would we have a resource? In what cases would we have them go versus calling 911 and having the police come?
It wouldn't be an emergency. If it's an emergency, we're dialing 911. But if we know that at dismissal time at Guilderland Elementary School, it might get difficult at pickup, we might send Nick over just to lend Alan a helping hand, that kind of a thing.
Okay. And I know, as a district, we're well aware of parents' concern not having a resource officer, at least at a minimum at the middle school as well. I didn't know, I know this is obviously just for this. I didn't know if we could touch base on the feasibility of another resource officer.
Yeah, that would be,
middle
yeah,
school.
that would be part of a conversation with the Guilderland Police Department, because they do support the vast majority of the costs associated with it.
Okay. Thanks.
Good questions. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 8-0.
Next is a recommendation to approve an agreement with Hudson Valley Community College to make available college and the high school courses to high school students.
May I have a motion to approve the agreement with Hudson Valley Community College? Seema, second. Ben, are there any questions or comments? I just had one. I noticed on the attachment to this, there were 2 courses that were listed. Would we consider adding more in the future if timing or interest were? So we're just kind of starting with these 2?
Yes, but we're always looking for more, so.
Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 8-0.
Next is the award of a contract transportation services bid for the summer. The recommendation is to award that to Raja Group, the lowest responsible bidder, meeting specifications.
May I have a motion to approve the transportation services bid? Seema, second. Teresa? Questions or comments on this one? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 8-0.
Next item is to approve contract extensions for contracted transportation services that were actually done last year, but we have the ability under state education law to extend those contracts with the CPI clause. That's permitted by the state education department. So all of the vendors have agreed to do that, to extend their contracts for another year. So we're recommending that the board approve the use of Brown Transportation, Northland Transportation, and Durham School Services for the coming school year.
May I have a motion to approve the contract extensions? Tim, second. Barbara, are there any questions on this one? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 8-0.
Next is the award of bid for paper towels to All-Star Cleaning Supply, the low bidder meeting specifications for a 3-year term beginning July 1st, 2018, with the option to extend the award for an additional 2 years if mutually agreeable.
May I have a motion to approve the bid award? Seema, second. Teresa, questions on this one? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 8-0.
Oh, you're all waiting for this one. Resolution to approve the bid award for toilet tissue to W.B. Mason, low bidder, meeting specifications for a 3-year term beginning July 1st, 2018, with the option to extend the award for an additional 2 years as well.
May I have a motion to approve the bid award? Seema, second. Teresa. Are there any questions or comments on this one? Neil, I can't remember. Do we use W.B. Mason for other supplies as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 8-0.
And getting back to donations again, we did receive a donation to start out the new school year, and that was the donation of a trumpet case and mutes from Gary Ribas.
May I have a motion to accept the donation? Teresa, second. Gloria? Are there any questions or comments on this one?
What's a mute?
Get in there.
Outside. Goes in
Kind of a trombone or trumpet.
Changes the tone of the instrument.
So I can give it to my children?
You can. I don't know if they can do that.
Okay. And of course, thank you for the generous donation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 8-0. Thank you, Neil. And now we move to superintendent action items. Marie?
I have one item that has 3 parts. At the last Board of Education meeting, we presented 3 of our annual plans that the board must approve annually. They are our Project SAVE plan, which outlines our safety plans for across the district, our professional development plan, and our academic intervention services plan.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the annual plans? Ben? Second. Teresa? Are there questions or comments on this one? Or Sean?
I just want to abstain. I tried to get through as much of this as I could, and this is one of those that I did not get to. So.
Okay. It was a lot. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 7 with 1 abstention. Thank you, Marie.
Sure thing.
And now we move to board president action items. We have a variety of policies that are listed today, most of which were presented at the last meeting for a first read. However, this is going to be broken into 2 different approvals because the last policy on that list, charging school meals and prohibition against shaming, was not provided for a first read at the last meeting. However, the board was provided with this policy a couple weeks ago in a Friday update, so we all have had a chance to review it, but we will approve that one separately on its own. So may I have a motion to approve the first set of those policies? Seema, second. Barbara, are there any questions or comments on those?
I just wanted to make a comment that in the agenda item part where they list there's a listing of the members of the policy review committee, and I just thought that Mr. Goh should be added to that because he was at the last 2 meetings and had some very good input on a couple items. So I thought that would be a good thing to do.
He was at those meetings, but I think we can only have 4 people on the committee, and if there's 5, then it's a quorum of the board, and it would be subject to open meeting. So even though he was there and did have comments, he technically was just an observer.
Oh, okay.
But that's a good point, and I know that he did have a lot of good feedback, so I think, Ben, you'll definitely be a good addition to that policy this year. But thank you for that. Are there any other questions or comments on that? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 8-0. And now, may I have a motion to approve the policy 8505, charging school meals and prohibition against shaming?
First, we'll make the motion to,
We're not suspending the rules.
we're not suspending the
Because
rules.
this was listed as an action item on the agenda for tonight, but that's why I called it out to begin with, so that we didn't have to suspend the rules. If it was listed as an information item for tonight and then we moved it down and approved it, then we would suspend the rules.
So even though we didn't have it on,
Yep, because that's kind of just our internal process, but it's not legally required that we do a first read and then bring it. So it's a departure from what we normally do, but
The only
that's why I
reason-
broke it down that
the
way
only
at the
reason we're
beginning.
doing this is because the state legislature said it has to be in effect as of July 1st, so just move it up.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Barbara makes the motion, and the second by Gloria. Are there any other questions or comments related to this one? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 8-0. And now we have one other item, the establishment of voter registration dates and locations for 2019. The board is required to set by resolution the time and location of personal voter registration dates to be held not more than 14 days nor less than 5 days before the annual vote and election. And so we will be establishing May 9th, May 13th, and May 14th, 2019, from 8:30 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. at the following locations: Altamont Elementary, Guilderland Elementary, Linwood Elementary, Westmere, and Pine Bush, for personal voter registration for said annual vote and election. Additionally, any person otherwise entitled to vote at said annual vote and election may register at the Guilderland Central School District Office at 8 School Road, Guilderland Center, New York, on May 9th, 13th, and 14th, 2019, between 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. So may I have a motion to approve the establishment of the voter registration dates? Ben, second, Teresa. Are there any questions or comments on this one? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 8-0. Thank you. And now we move to board committee reports. I'm not sure if any have met between the last meeting and now, but we'll go through anyway. Teresa, has the audit committee met?
Oh, we haven't, right? Everything just kind of meshes together.
I don't think business practices has met either. Okay. Has communications met?
We have not met, but we going to be asking Linda to send out a thing, because we need to meet, and we have 3 kind of quick things to take care of. One on the calendar that we had talked about, getting that calendar for board activities. We need to decide whether we want to have an ad hoc committees for setting up a new evaluation tool for the board, and one for the superintendent, a revised one, and also to get the handbook out.
Okay.
Now that we have not gotten any, I have not received any more additions, so we're going to print a final draft and work through it this year.
Okay, great, thank you. And policy committee, Barbara?
You had the result of our work earlier.
Okay, thank you. And now we move to public comment number 2. Linda, has anybody signed up this evening? Okay. Board issues, ideas, and sharing. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share this evening? Ben?
I just had a question for Marie about the student expression policy that one of our attorneys had some concerns with. Have you gotten an update on that?
I don't have the backup information that she wanted to provide, so just to give the rest of the board a bit of context, Ben had some suggestions to the student expression policy that came to a first read at the last board meeting. They were substantive as opposed to wordsmithing kinds of things. Because that policy is so close to First Amendment kinds of issues, I sent it over to Kate Howard at the law firm, works with Jeff Honeywell. She did have some concerns, said hold off on it for a bit, and she was going to give me the kind of the background of her concerns, and I haven't gotten them yet, but I will follow up with her. So we'll have something for the August meeting.
Yes, Barbara.
Another question from Marie. Our earlier start times for schools committee or whatever we're doing, is that on the agenda for your retreat?
Not for the administrative retreat. I think our first challenge is to create a task force that I think our administrative team would probably be tuned into, but I'm not sure that it's all we want to focus on at our retreat. So I'm working now on kind of creating the framework for that task force to bring to the board at the August meeting. I have been reaching out to my colleagues. I have the report that NISCA unit did, and I've connected with the Bethlehem folks and Brighton, who has not made a decision yet. They have kicked the can down the road a little bit. So I'm doing some data gathering, and we'll have something for the board to review in August. Okay.
Anyone else?
Linda, could you do those card things that you did each year?
Yep.
They're
Now
great.
that everything's been decided on.
Right, thank you. I love those.
I just wanted to make one more comment. It's about the board retreat that we keep trying to have.
Yep.
I know that the dates that Robert Hendricks had for July didn't work out. And I just bring this up because I'm concerned that if we get 2 days a month, that'll never work. So I wasn't with Robert Hendricks the last time he met with the board, so I'm not sure how crucial he is to the process. But given that, I don't want it to be February again before we all sit down together. So I'm just wondering if there's other things we could try besides getting 2 dates a month.
Well, that's all he had left, so, I mean, we can work on that. He's working with our leadership team at the end of this month on July 25th and 26th, so I think there is some wisdom in having all of our leadership groups and the board kind of work with the same person, so we're not going off in different directions. He and I have a call either tomorrow, yes, tomorrow is Friday. I don't have any idea what day of the week this is, to talk not only about our leadership retreat, but to get some additional dates. If there's a sense from the board of when there is availability, I mean, I just feel like I throw dates out and I feel like I'm throwing out into the universe and not knowing anything from that, because I didn't hear back from anyone either. So it's really difficult to try to, confirm some times. I mean, is there a week in the summer where everyone is here?
You kidding?
Well, that's really the challenge.
I mean, can you send a doodle and say we have to reply by a certain date?
We can try that. I'll get some more dates from him. We'll try again.
Great, thank you. Are there any other issues, ideas, or sharing? Okay. So we need a motion to go into executive session to discuss parameters pertaining to the board's strategy with respect to negotiations regarding the Guilderland Administrators Association. May I have a motion? Tim, second. Teresa? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Sorry with the dates.